Hello, everyone. This is Shauna, and welcome to episode 10 of the Bob and Nikki series discussion. This is Monkey Business, is, as I mentioned, the 10th installment. And in this installment, we pick up where we left off. Last installment, we had Bob with a robot that we didn't know if he was going to make it, if they were going to be able to repair him or not. Well, they got him repaired, and he's now an asset to the crew. In this book, we get a lot more interaction with the bots. We also get a lot more naval type interaction because Bob does go and finally go after the Commonwealth Navy. In this book, it's been brewing for a couple of books, and he's been trying to put it off as long as he can. And he would have put it off longer if he hadn't made a mistake in this book. But here he's got the bots going, and he's actually in a bot project, but the squirrels are not letting him have any of this, and they just keep attacking, and they tend to send one ship at a time, which makes it kind of a joke that they'll be able to do any serious damage. The first attack that Bob repels is they get to Charlie's planet, and um, Morning Flower and her people are repelling an attack by the squirrel, and they're putting the squirrels on the planet to shovel their outhouses. So Bob decides to institute an immediate policy of uh, stun and capture, because the squirrels are uh, very prone to the stunner, but don't harm them. Well, he accidentally, in the midst of that, targets a merchant vessel that is captained by a man named uh, Natty Dressy. And from the incident, he learns that the squirrels see him as an easy mark because he hasn't been tough with them. So he gets with his squirrel crewmates, Lackey, Witty, and Happy, and he finds out that Lackey um, was captured by the squirrel military when she hacked into a walnut broker's computer and demanded a ransom. And in this book, that becomes a real thing. They confirm their theory about the ransom, and the encroachment on the walnut cartel, that it does exist. And so you have a couple more squirrel attacks, and in one of the squirrel attacks, actually, because they get more sophisticated, several members of the crew are stunned before the squirrels try to take over. And in that encroachment, um, Sally takes over the ship. Sally the bot takes over the ship, and Bob finds out that we know she had Navy background. Bob finds out that she has latent captain's credentials that her previous owner had given her, but never certified. And so she could never act as captain, but he gave her the captain's training. But she took over, obviously, as captain, while Bob and John and Nikki were all stunned because they were all under the influence of the stunner. And so Bob recognizes that, and then he realizes, I've got another captain here, and I can't have her outranking me on the bridge. He has a conversation with Dingus at that point, because He's got a whole bay full, several times. He's got a whole bay full of squirrel prisoners that he needs to take back to their home planet. And he hasn't been able to really recruit anybody else from their ranks. They all think he's a dumb monkey. So he makes a mistake on a non-secure comm and mentions that he knows where the Navy Yard is to Dingus. And then he figures, oh, I made a mistake because the squirrels are tracking the transmissions. And then he knows that they want to keep that under wraps. So he hightails it out to where the Navy Yard is. And when they do that, he leaves everybody behind on Charlie's planet, including his wife Nikki, because he doesn't know when he's going to be back. He leaves Nikki behind to deal with the patrol that Bill Rodham is bringing, because Bill Rodham has a tip from high up that Bob's been dealing with aliens, and Bob's got aliens as part of his crew. And so he leaves Nikki in charge, heads for the Navy Yard. And when he gets to the Navy Yard, they find a bunch of bots that are defunct, that are floating with no sources of power. And they try to get everyone running, and they find a bunch of ships that need repairs. He repairs, there's about 5 or 6 that get repaired immediately, and then he needs a staging site to repair the rest. So Bob now has the Gene Cernan, which we've had for several books, that he's commanding, but he also has now the Neil Armstrong that Dingus Sloan commands. He has the Buzz Aldrin that John Brennan commands, and that AI goes by the name of Ed instead of Buzz. You have the Alan Shepard that's captained by Sally. You have the Gus Grissom, who's a destroyer, commanded by Steve Mason. And then you have the Chesty Puller, who's due to be commanded by a bot. We don't know when the book ends who's going to be taking command of the Chesty, but we do know that it will be taking a mission to the planet of the carnivorous animals, because Bob's plan is to pick up the people from that planet and ferry them to the planet that Cornelia and Veronica have found, to try to get them settled in a better place. There's yet another squirrel attack that Bob repels, and you find out that Frank, their resident genius, physics and engineering genius, has managed to hack Julie's programming again. And so the bots take it on themselves to tighten up her security even more if they can. And Sue, Taz's girlfriend, comes on and works sensors on the gene. There's another batch of runaway pirates that are rounded up. These aren't squirrels, these are actually pirates that are far out in the system in squirrel space, using Lila Bongwater's derelict spacecraft, because she got in trouble with some of the pirates and got herself in a bad way, and they rescued her. But they were using her for bait. So Bob has to deliver those castaways back to Earth. So he drops them by the patrol, Bill Rodham, and then he heads back to Charlie's Planet. So now as the book ends, we have Bob trying to, he's back on Charlie's Planet and he's trying to set up repair operations on Charlie's Planet. But he doesn't really want to repair the ships there. So he wants to send them to the faraway planet that Veronica and Cornelia have found. And he wants to ferry back the people, pick up Nikki and everyone from Charlie's Planet, and then start off with getting the ships back in order and possibly head back to Earth. We don't know yet. But that is for the next installment. And that's about it for this installment of Monkey Business. The next installment is Let's Make a Deal. And it gets us further into dealing with the monkeys for part of it, and also gives us more information about all the bots and the Navy structure that we've picked up. And Bob is really starting to have command of the small Navy bit by bit right now as we rebuild it and put it back together and give the ships new jobs and new designations. I hope you've enjoyed this installment of Bob and Nikki series discussion. I really liked it because it showcases a lot of the abilities of the bots, and you start to see it's not as a sort of informal, comforting vibe as the first maybe 5-6 books are, but you really start to see the bots come into their own and understand that they may have been used to working for a regimented Navy before, and people who don't like bots to take initiative and don't trust bots. But you start to see the bots responding to Bob and his leadership style and this very kind of multicultural crew assignment sort of thing that's going on in this book. So now you have the humans, you have the Sasquatch that are on Charlie's Planet, and you have the squirrels that are in, there's a couple of squirrels in Bob's crew. And then we have more dealings with more squirrels as we go along. And we've got some extending plot points besides the ships that Bob needs to get repaired and the people that he wants to get off of the carnivorous planet. He's now starting to think about needing to raid Earth for additional human crew and figuring out where to get more bots. Copper's got some friends that he needs to find, and Bob is into looking for that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in book 11, but I really enjoy the banter and the whole development. And Lord willing, I'll be back next week with another installment of the Bob and Nikki series discussion. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you very much.